Welcome to the Faith and Mental Health Podcast, where two worlds collide. I am your host, DeAndrea Bolden. Join myself and others as we have relevant, engaging conversation on a variety of topics that are related to faith and mental health. So be sure to tune in weekly and also to subscribe. Did you know that you can listen to this podcast on all major podcast platforms, such as Apple, Google, and even Stitcher? You can even catch this podcast on my YouTube channel. As a listener, please know that we want to hear from you, and we hope that you would reach out with feedback, suggestions, and even ideas for guests and topics that you would like for us to include. Oh, do you mind helping me out by simply sharing this podcast with others? Thank you, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. God bless. Hello, everyone. My name is DeAndrea Bolden, and you are tuned in to the Faith and Mental Health Podcast. Today, I have another dynamic guest with me today. I have Dr. Carla J. Cooke. And you know my rule. I'm not going to introduce her. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Dr. Cooke, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely, I can. Hello, DeAndrea, and all of the listening audience. Let me just say thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Excited to talk about this subject matter. But my name is Dr. Carla Cooke. I am a global psychologist. I am an author, a licensed psychologist as well, the visionary of the Healed People, Heal People movement. And I am a child of God. I have strong faith. I love people, sisterhood, family, and all things vegetarian.
Oh, okay. I heard a little vegetarian plug at the end.
A little something.
I'm definitely trying to wean. I just put a post up the other day. I'm trying to wean myself off meat. But okay, let's stay on topic. You said something I want you to explain a little bit. Can you expound on global psychologist? Somebody may be like, what is that?
I know, you know what, everybody picks up on that. And so really what that is that there was a point at which, like, I just heard the still small voice to come outside of the four walls of the office. For a long time, many years, I had a counseling center. And once I got that whisper, I started to speak publicly. And that culminated in me speaking in Rome, Italy, to a group of lawyers and mental health professionals about going beyond the courtroom. And the fact that, you know, really to whom much is given, much will be required, that we have, you know, this gifts, the talents, the knowledge that God has positioned us to have. And so therefore to freely give it, like we're doing today, to just be able to talk about it. And so the four walls do not contain me. The state of New Jersey does not contain me, nor does the, you know, United States. So I am global.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That was very interesting. And so, yes, I heard you say you're a licensed psychologist, a global psychologist, and an author. And we're going to get to the part about you being an author a little bit later. And so for those that don't know, Dr. Carla J. Cooke is going to be one of the virtual speakers for the 2023 Faith and Mental Health Podcast. And I thought this would be a dynamic time, a great opportunity to introduce her to some of the people that follow faith and mental health, and allow people to see and experience some of her expertise. She was talking about what did you call it? The people healing people movement, right?
Yeah, healed people, heal people. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been seeing this on my social media. I've been seeing the graphics. I've been seeing the flyers, and I'm like, I'm loving it. A lot of times I'm not free to attend some of the events she has, but it looks very, very rich, and we'll get to that later. See, I didn't even mean to go there, but I want to get more into her expertise. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about emotions, We're going to talk about why emotions are important to the Lord, and also why they should be important to you. Emotions may not seem like a big thing until somebody loses it and winds up in prison. Until somebody loses it and does something that they regret the rest of their life. Emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, having control over your emotions, all of that stuff matters. So Dr. Cooke, I want you to take a moment and kind of talk a little bit about why do emotions matter to God?
Well, emotions matter to God because he has them. And we know that he has them because he speaks about them in the text, in the sacred text in the Bible. And what I love about God is he's not afraid to show them. He doesn't hide them. Unlike us, that sometimes we have emotional experiences, but we feel or believe that we can't show them to other people, even people close to us, because a lot of time we identify it as a weakness. But as I was thinking about the Bible, and I was thinking about all of the different scriptures where God talks about his own emotions, he talks of he's love, that in and of itself, God is love. He talks about being grieved with Israel based on their sins. He expressed wrath, he expressed anger. He was able to embrace even the negative emotions as well as the positive emotions. And I think about, Jesus, where Jesus wept. And I think about the fact that, he went into the synagogues and he turned over the tables. All of this is emotional experiences. And so if God is speaking so loudly about emotions, that means he cares about them. And so should we. And there's so many scriptures, but I'm going to pause there because we can get into the scriptures as well.
That's really, really good. The Bible definitely gives us a lot of biblical references. The scriptures give us a lot of biblical references about emotions. And I think we have to remember that we're created in his image. And because God created us to be like him, we also have emotions. I think it's important to realize when it comes to emotions is that usually what we need to get in check isn't the good emotions. That's why the Bible, even when we look at the fruit of the spirit, when it talks about joy, love, peace, all those things, there's no law against being happy. There's no law against walking around with a smile on your face. But then when we look at Proverbs 15 and 18, it says a hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contention.
Yeah.
Look at how many people are fighting at the ball games, fighting at the bar, fighting at the party. And so the emotions that we have to get in check, sometimes I believe anger is considered a secondary emotion. And sometimes the emotions we have to get in check are not the ones that make us feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. So let's dive into some of the things that could be causing people to have some of the more negative emotions, how they can do to recognize these things, and what they can do to try to combat these things. What I mean is, we don't have to sit in a pit of anger. We don't have to let things trigger us every time. So what can we do to be better and be healthier with our emotions?
I think the first thing we have to do is recognize that all emotions are information. I always say emotions are messengers. Emotions are getting our attention. They're giving us information. They are signaling us to go inward and to take care of something that's happening in our external environment or something that has been triggered on the inside of us. And so if we look at emotions and understand emotions as a natural, normal experience and not something that is negative, something that is bad, something that I should not have, but something that is important for me to embrace and have a relationship with, then we'll be better able to manage our emotions because we have established first and foremost this relationship with them. We have a worldview or a way of looking at emotions that says, wow, every emotion is important. Every emotion is significant. Every emotion is there because it wants to get my attention to move, to take care of something. And so first, it's embracing emotions. I think the other thing we also, and this is connected to what I just said, it's redefining what emotions are and taking them out of the negative box, because there is such a stigma, and sometimes there's so many mixed messages that we get, even in church, about having emotional experiences. So we have to redefine them. And once we have more of a healthier relationship with emotions, the way we think about them, then we can start to practice or do more of leaning into them. That when they start to surface, when they start to come up, as opposed to pushing them away, ignoring it, suggesting, oh, I'm not upset, I'm really happy, like I don't care, that person did that to me, I'm too blessed to be stressed, instead of all of that, to actually experience the emotion and allow ourselves to begin to have that experience, that, wow, I was able to sit in this emotion of anger, let's say, or I was able to sit in this emotion of frustration or whatever that quote unquote negative emotion may be. And wow, as a result of that, I learned something new. One, I learned that I could do it. And I learned that once I sat in it, I started to understand more about where it was coming from and what I needed to do with it. So I think those are two really important things to begin with. And I'll pause there for a moment.
That was good. That was good. I was sitting there when I was listening, and I was thinking, because yeah, I just think it's important for us to I think sometimes, and I'll take a step back, sometimes we tend to minimize things that we think are little. And we're like, oh, it's just emotions, no big deal. It's like, no, emotions are a big deal. Your emotions can cause you to say something that can destroy a relationship, and it just, you can't repair it. Your emotions can cause you to do something that could land you in jail. Your emotions can cause you to say something or do something that can get you fired. And so emotions do matter. John Hopkins Medicine has an article, and they talk about recognizing and coping with negative emotions. And I wanted to share this list of what they call negative emotions. And you have anger, emptiness, frustration, inadequacy, helplessness, fear, guilt, loneliness, depression, being overwhelmed, resentment, failure, sadness, and jealousy. And they went on in this article I asked people, is somebody normally involved when you have those emotions? That's what I was saying. Like, sometimes you have to recognize if something is triggering you. Do you feel certain emotions when you go a certain place, or when you go around a certain person, or when you're doing a certain activity or whatever? I think it's so important that we don't just acknowledge the emotion. We acknowledge who and what is around us when that emotion is happening, and even what we're doing. Because if it's not a healthy emotion, or if it's an emotion that we're experiencing a lot, like you don't want to feel lonely 24/7, 365. There's nothing wrong, just like Dr. Cooke said. She said, your emotions are messengers. And so your emotions, are your reaction to whatever it is you're experiencing. But some emotions aren't good to feel all the time. We shouldn't, you shouldn't feel sad all day, every day. That's not normal. And so it's important to not just acknowledge the emotion, but acknowledge who's around you, what's around you, what you're doing, because sometimes there are some adjustments we can make that can help get us to a better place emotionally. So I just wanted to say that, and then I'm just going to kind of toss the ball right back to Dr. Cooke. You can just kind of piggyback off that. Really just thinking about the nouns, the who, where, and what is happening with us when we're experiencing some of these emotions. And so I like how when we were talking about the topic for the podcast today, you said emotions matter to God and they should also matter to you, because just like you said earlier, if it's written in the scripture, and there are quite a few scriptures that are talking about different types of emotions or different emotions. And so if God thought it was important to put it in his word, it should be important to us. And I'm going to go ahead right there, and I'm going to segue it back to Dr. Cooke. Go ahead.
I love that you connected emotions to places, persons, and things, right? That they are not in isolation in and of themselves. They're being triggered. Even if they're triggered by a memory, it's a memory of something that I was in connection, someone I was in connection with, or an experience that I had. And so really being able to identify that is also very important, because it does also speak to our ability to, one, recognize what's happening to us internally, and then also to be able to manage it. Because it may be every time I show up in this organization that I'm doing volunteer work with, I leave feeling defeated. I leave feeling overwhelmed. I do leave feeling resentment. And then it's important for me, as you were saying, to sit and understand what is that, what's connected with that, why is it that that comes up each time. And it may not be the organization, so to speak. It may not be the people connected to the organization. It may be there's too much on my plate and I'm spread too thin, or this is really not my passion and it's not my purpose. I'm out of alignment. So I love that you bring up that point about being connected. And the other thing that made me think about is the fact that there is a physiological component to emotions. Our body is also in connection to what we are experiencing in the emotional realm. And so sometimes what's happening is this disconnect, that I'm having this emotion and I'm having this physiological response to a situation where my whole body begins to separate. My mind, I'm physically there, but my mind is not there. And I'm just totally disconnected from what's happening. Or I'm in this experience and my body, I notice that, I'm having headaches, or I'm having a stomach ache, or my heart is beating very quickly. And so I think the other piece to that is paying attention to what is happening inside of our bodies and having that come into alignment with what's happening to us emotionally. And then one last thing that came up for me as you were talking is about, like, how long do we linger in emotional experiences? And you talked about, like, no, we shouldn't feel, sad. It's a month, and every day for a month we've felt sad. And, that becomes, a point at which we may fall into the category of having a diagnosis. It could be adjustment disorder, or some kind of depression, or some kind of persistent type of depressive disorder. But I think very often, sometimes some of us are living in emotional experiences, right? So we're living in fear. That is our go-to. That's our response. We wake up with it and we go to sleep with it. And we are just trying to manage it, and we never address it. And then what happens is those emotions really get into, like, the driver's seat of life, and they begin to dictate and shape everything we do and what we don't do. And we're kind of like sitting in the back seat, that wisdom that we have, all of our experience, that sound mind that we have is like in the passenger seat or in the back seat as these emotions have taken the wheel. And that's exactly what you started talking about. It ends up poorly, right? It doesn't end up well. It ends up with those broken relationships, or we've said something we can't take back, or, the job is looking at us sideways, and all of those other things. So I think those are kind of three things as you were talking that kind of jumped out to me, just for the consideration of those that are listening in.
That was good. And I like how you mentioned the physiological component. That's like, so that was another definitely a good nugget. And for those that are tuning in, my guest today is Dr. Carla J. Cooke, and we are talking about emotions. Hello. And so knowing what's happening with your body, is your stomach turning? Is your stomach in knots? Are you feeling your body tightening up because you're full of anger or whatever it is? It's like, recognizing that your body is impacted, and I guess I should say your body is involved in your emotional responses. And so it's important to recognize those things and realize, that it's happening. And so it is okay. So we're getting close to time. And so what I want to do, I want to shift gears, because like I said earlier, Dr. Carla J. Cooke, the global psychologist, is also an author. And so, Dr. Cooke, I want you to tell us about your books. We also want to hear more about your Healing People movement. And we want to hear about where can people connect with you? How can they contact you? What else do you have going on? I need you to give us all that information right now.
Oh, okay. So here we go. So my book is called On Being Well Workbook, Foundations of Positive Emotional Health. And that is just what it is. It's talking about, let's lay the foundation of our emotional health so that we can function well, so that we have good functioning, that we have the resiliency, and that we have the ability to manage stress. And so I give 21 tools and strategies really to combat stress. I look at the mind. I look at concrete, practical things that we can do, and also ways to really calm down our central nervous system, to go from being in fight and flight, to being in a calm, relaxed state. And so I would love to put the book in everyone's hands. And since I said that, listen, let me just give my website, which is my name. So it's Dr. Carla J. Cooke, Carla with a C, J, and then Cooke with an E. So drcarlajcooke.com. And so my book is on my website. I've gotten lots of feedback, not just because I wrote it, but people seem to really value it, appreciate it, and really get a lot out of it. Healed people. Wow. So, we always talk about the fact that hurt people, and we know that that's true, but we can interrupt that process by being healed. And so my goal through this movement is to give information and light a fire in people's hearts about, being a healed person that shows up in the world and gives other people safe spaces and, smiles and words of kindness and compassion and all of that ends up healing them. And so with this Heal People, generally I work with mature women and women entrepreneurs. I have a healing space. If anyone is on Facebook, you can just Google Healed Women's Hub, come on and be in community with us there. I definitely do talks and am available for talks, but I also have some coaching programs that are being rolled out. And every month I am doing a virtual women's mental wellness summit that's on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. And I just have to mention that tomorrow I am going to have Dr. George Frazier on live with me talking about mental wealth as well as the Power Networking Conference. If anyone does not know him, just look him up, Google him. He is the GOAT of networking and really has done so much in the African-American community, in particular around entrepreneurship, around generating a wealth. And, you know, I described him today as an international treasure. And wherever and whenever he's speaking, you want to pay attention. So you definitely would want to, tune into that. So yeah, I have lots going on. And I would love to connect with you on all social media outlets. You can find me at Dr. Carla J. Cooke. So that would be on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TikTok, and on Twitter.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Carla, for being my my guest today. And thank you to those that are tuned in. And so I'm hoping that each and everyone that's tuned in, be sure that if you haven't already, you get registered for the 2023 Faith and Mental Health Hybrid Summit. It will be virtual from May 4th through May 6th. And we will be live in person in Kalamazoo, Michigan on May 5th only. So come out, chat with me, hug me, take pictures, and hang out with us in Kalamazoo, Michigan on May 5th. So again, Dr. Cooke, thank you for your time. And thank you to everyone that is tuned in. Until next time.
Thank you so much, DeAndrea, for the invitation. But thank you so much.